I'm Dave Kassler, amateur radio call sign KE0OG, and welcome Augies Worldwide. We're here today with Trevor Ullman, who is the Ask Dave editor. He's the one who gets all of the questions that go to hamradioanswers@gmail.com or on the Ask Dave form at dkassler.com/ask-dave. All of those go to him, and he prints them and sorts them, and we try to answer them as a group. And that's what we're going to do today. What do we have here?
All right. So Vern asks about an RF and an RF choke placement.
His first question was, what's the best method to determine if RFI is coming back into the shack? You'll know it because your equipment will misbehave. I mean, it could be everything from your transceiver dropping out or rebooting to loud noises in stereos or other speakers, something like that. Things will go wrong. Otherwise, you don't have an RFI problem and don't need to worry about it. Where is the best place to put an RF choke? Nearest the antenna feed point or nearest the radio? Well, by choke, you might mean a low-pass filter or a high-pass filter or something like that that keeps you from interfering with televisions and so on. You would put it in the device, in the power cord of the device, just prior to where it enters the device. If you're putting this in your antenna system, for example, a low-pass filter, you'd want it near the radio because otherwise the transmitter feed line will transmit a little bit. So, hope that helps.
All right, Doug, call sign KB8DNQ, wants you to know your opinion on WinLink.
What I thought of WinLink? Well, I've never used it. Sorry, I don't know anything about it. I know it is used for the National Traffic System. It seems out of date. Well, geez, it's 20 years old. It is quite out of date. What limits the speed on it is the speed of an HF link, is what can be transmitted over an audio bandwidth. And that isn't real high. There's been no particular movement or modernization in the field at all. The kind of people who do these modernizations, who write the software for them, have moved on to other modes, FTH, AT9, things like that. So otherwise, I can't offer an opinion on it except to say that it works.
All right, Mike, call sign N6BC, wants to offer some advice on a micro SD card slot on HD1.
The Islands HD1 is a nice little radio. I've heard some people say it has hearing issues, meaning it's not sensitive. I need to get the thing out and test that for those. He suggests that on all of these DMR radios, they add a SD card slot to them so that you can put the SD card in and then populate that with the names, addresses, and everything for all of the people who have DMR IDs, which is about 96,000 right now. I know the HD1 could pick up, I think, 100,000 and have those in memory, but it'll soon obviously exceed 100,000. You don't need a very big card to do this, so I'll pass it on there. So Yaesu, ICOM, Kenwood, Redivus, Baofeng, Radiodity. Now hear this. We need to add micro SD card slots to these DMR radios so that we can put those data files inside them. There you go.
All right, John, call sign KZ4ZK, has a question about ground loops.
He would like me to do a video on ground loops, how to prevent them, how to remedy them. That's a sort of a subset. I did an Ask Dave episode number 8 a long time ago on grounding, and I showed in there what a single point ground is. This is a chart from that video that shows the single point ground. Note that the term single point doesn't necessarily mean a point in space, but it's a single place that everything is grounded to, like this. And in this photograph, I'm showing my current station single point ground, which is a short piece of copper pipe that I'm using as the place to which everything is grounded. And this constitutes a single point ground. And then I have a single ground wire going from this down to the signal ground, which is just right outside the shack. Now, as far as remedying ground loops, well, getting everything into the single point ground configuration really helps. But then playing with cable lengths, moving cables around, moving equipment around can sometimes bring you to a point where you hit the right proportion of this, that, and the other and make those ground loops go away. They can be very pesky and persnickety. If just simply moving the cables doesn't do it, try varying the length of the cables or using ferrite cores. If you get a ferrite core about this big around, you can wrap coax through it, and that'll often help get rid of common mode radiation, which is one of the things that creates the ground loops. Okay.
Hey, Pierre is wondering about Jaypole construction.
Okay, Jaypole construction. What he's going to do is make himself a Jaypole for, I think, 15 meters. And that's going to be a pretty good sized Jaypole. There are two schools of thought. One school of thought says a Jaypole looks like this with the J. This part right here is a transmission line that's a quarter wavelength long. So you connect across here and you have 50 ohms, because it's 0 ohms right here. And that will take you up to this point right here, which is infinite ohms. And then you're connecting end on to a dipole, because this is a half wavelength here. Okay. Now, there are those who say that just because this is the 0 voltage end doesn't mean there's not a whole lot of current flowing through there. There is. There's a lot of current flowing. And so they want to put another transmission line stub at the bottom. I don't think that is necessary. I think you're fine without it, and you'll be just fine with your Jaypole. He mentions that he's modeling with 4NEC2. That's great. That's a nice piece of modeling software. It's popular in Europe. It's free. I would say you model it with and without the extra stub and see what happens. Again, noting that this part of the Jaypole is actually a transmission line rather than the actual antenna. So, good luck. I'd like to see a picture of that when it's done.
All right, Robert has a question about his attic antenna.
He's been looking at the MFJ 1788, which is a loop antenna. I just did a video about the 1788 in horizontal configuration. What I found was mounted up on the roof up there, it's a little bit noisier than it was when I had it way out in the backyard. It does work really well on 20. I have reservations about how well it works on 40. But you can certainly use it, you know, on 30, 20, and 15 and 17. But you'd need a different model to go up to 10 meters. But given that 40 and 20 are where it's at right now, just recognize that on 40 it's going to be a compromise antenna, although on 20 it does just as well as a dipole.
All right. Call sign KC2MFC has a question about a low-cost iambic Morse code key recommendation.
I recently reviewed one in video Ask Dave 126. So go find that. It discusses both straight and iambic keys. And the iambic key was remarkably low priced for a key. It's a plastic 3D printed model that works just fine. And that's about the least expensive you're going to get. I don't know why, but there just isn't a source for inexpensive Morse code keys anymore. They're all quite expensive. You'll pay, you can easily pay more than $200. There's a smattering available for less than that. But when you get down below $100, you just don't find anything. There's no fundamental reason for that. The keys that are sold today by these players are way overbuilt. They don't need to be as solid and as they are made. They can be made a lot better. Just as well for a lot less metal and a lot less cost. But there isn't that much of a market for Morse code keys, so people who do market for it tend to go for the high end of the market to make it pay. So there we have it, another Ask Dave video. Thank you for watching. In channel news, please take a look at www.dcasler.com/support. Different ways that you can help make this a viewer-supported channel. The tip jar is in there. And I hope that you will continue to join us for future videos. Please subscribe. And once you've subscribed, click on the bell that's in there. That way you actually get a separate email notification every time I put up a video. Thank you so much for watching. Until we next meet, 73.